Hey folks, welcome back. I'm glad you could be with me today because, well, sit down because we're going to have a serious conversation today. Well, I know that pretty much everything I talk about is kind of serious because, well, we're not here for fun and games and joking around. We're trying to learn something, but today we're going to talk about something that's a little more serious than usual. It's kind of a serious as in somber kind of serious. And, well, I also say I like to do videos based on personal experiences and that sort of thing. And that's kind of what we're doing today. This is largely, it's not something that's entirely new, but recent events have inspired me to do a video on the subject. And it's, well, commitment. If you're going to have a horse, you need to have commitment. That's all there is to it. And it's not a small commitment. And, well, quite frankly, it doesn't sound nice, and as much as I hate to say it, there are people out there that already have horses that probably should not have horses. Well, let me explain. Before you get a horse, if you don't already have one, and you're watching these videos, if you don't already have a horse, think long and hard about the responsibility and commitment involved in getting one, because it's not something to be taken lightly. There's a very large financial and emotional and time commitment in owning a horse, because well, I believe the record is 56 years or something absurd like that. Your average light horse will live to be approximately 25 years old. That's pretty common. And I've seen quite a few horses firsthand that have far exceeded that. I have one that's already 27. There was another one here at the barn that lived to be 36. I know of a guy that had one that made it to 42. Read another article about a guy that he was still endurance racing a horse that was 42. But, well, we'll stick to the average of, say, 25. You got 25 years of commitment where you have to be responsible for that horse. That means that financially, and a lot of people don't realize that, they think, well, I paid $5,000 or $10,000 or whatever for the horse. No, that's nothing. Compared to what you're going to spend over the years on that horse, that's a pretty small investment, because you are going to be financially responsible for every expense of that horse, and that could be a few $1,000s just for the tack you put on it. Then you could be, well, depending on where you board, anywhere from $200 to $800 a month, every month, for the rest of its life, for the board. And that's to ensure that it has food and water. And you still have to pay for your vet, which, well, depending on the incidence, that could run you into thousands. Trimming, $45, $50, whatever the guys charge these days, every couple months minimum. And then if it's also, you not only have to see, the financial thing can also affect your personal life as well, because then you don't get as much selection of what job you're going to take, because you have to make sure you're making enough money to support the horse for 25 years. That's worse than that's a longer commitment than raising a kid. Well, for some of them. Some of them are still living in mom's basement in their 30s, but some of them can also be out by the time they're 18, because that's legal. But you need to make a commitment that, which is one of the reasons I have a job right now, doing what I do, is to make enough money to be able to afford to care for my horses. No questions asked, because, I got one horse. She's a little bit of an odd shape. Cost me $1,800 just for a used saddle that had fit her properly. Have you got that kind of commitment? And then, well, if your horse gets injured, there's the time commitment. Have you got the commitment? And this could also end up being financial too, because if you don't live where the horse is, you got to drive out. So you got to spend money on gas every freaking day, because if it gets injured or something, you might have to go out and clean and redress that wound every single day for months. And well, that's the kind of responsibility and commitment that you need to have. Are you willing to do that? If something comes up, I can't take care of my horse because I planned holidays. Guess what? You don't get holidays when you own a horse. Because, well, if you do, you better have somebody else that can look after it proper. But this whole subject is kind of triggered by, personal events. Like I said, I like to do videos that have to do with what goes on in my life. And well, what goes on in my life is, I have 4 horses. And it turns out that one of them has got a condition that we've spent, I don't know, somewhere close to $600 in tests just to determine that she has the condition. That doesn't even treat it yet. It just confirms that she has it. Some blood tests are extremely expensive, by the way. But you got to do it. And it was funny because the one vet wanted to know how much I was willing to spend on the horse. It's like, well, you know what? We can't put a price on their health. Well, at least we shouldn't. But it turns out she's got this condition that is going to require special housing, special diet, which is all going to be a bit of an inconvenience to me. And then on top of all that, she's going to be on medications that I have to administer every single day for the rest of her life. Now that particular horse, she's about 18 years old, but because of her breed, they tend to live long. So for the next 10 years, every single day, I'm going to have to give medications to that horse. I'm going to have to make sure I'm available. And prescription is not cheap either. And on top of that, like I said, going to have to arrange for special housing so we control her diet proper. And that means that I have to be available on a daily basis to feed her. And no, not grains and stuff, because that's not good for them. That'd make the problem worse. But I have to be available on a regular basis, daily, to feed her and give her meds. So that's the personal thing. I've made this commitment to look after my horses, and it turns out that I am going to be looking after that horse every single day for the rest of her life. And it's not just a financial commitment, it's a time commitment. It's going to alter my lifestyle a bit, because my life's going to revolve around that particular horse. I have, like I said, I got 4, and I sure hope I don't end up with things conflicting between them. But that's how it goes, and that's what this video is all about. And commitment. You have to be willing to make the commitment if you have a horse. And, it could be 25 years, it could be 30 years, it could be 40 years even. And you have to be willing to make the commitment for that time that you're going to look after that horse, financially, and your time and effort and all this stuff. So, if you don't already own a horse, think long and hard. Are you willing to alter your life to that point? And if you see me doing this a lot, flies are terrible in here. It's horrible today. They seem to have gotten worse in the last half hour since I started this video too. Only one thing I will say though, thank goodness it has cooled off a little bit today, because even though where I live it tends to be brutal cold in the wintertime, we can also have temperatures that exceed 100 degrees in the summertime. And for several weeks now, it's been in the 90s, which is a little unusual for around here. We do get the heat, but not usually for weeks on end. And we're not used to that stuff, man. It's hard on us, okay? We're used to 40 below. We can tough that out. right? Okay. Anyhow, well, commitment to where I live, eh? Well, commitment to my horse, you know. It's never been, and I've had more than one vet actually, because I've been dealing with several vets on this, and I've had more than one vet kind of imply that I may not want to take care of the horse. One even suggested having her heart put down, and I'm like, no, that's not even an option. No. But unfortunately, and that's where I want to talk about commitment, is because something that happens an awful lot is, people get horses, and when they start to get old or sick and aren't rideable and fully functional anymore, then they want to pawn them off on somebody else. They want to sell them and let somebody else deal with the problem. Well, fact is, not many people want pasture pets. And, if the horse isn't rideable, you're probably going to have a hard time selling it. And it's really quite unfair to be passing your problems off on somebody else. And the more unscrupulous people, what they end up doing is they'll sell the horse and not even tell the next person about the problems. Let them find out. As long as it's not in their backyard, the problem doesn't exist anymore. That's a sad, sad shame, and shame on those people. You keep your horse and you look after it to the day it dies, naturally. Unless, of course, quality of life is to the point where it's not reasonable to keep the horse alive anymore. It's suffering too much. You may have to make that decision. Unfortunately, that's a reality. If you got a horse, that's a decision that any one of you or me, might have to make. I mean, I'm sure that someday I'm going to have to make that decision. Maybe not. Maybe I'll get lucky and they'll all die of natural causes. That wouldn't be much fun either, though, finding them dead when I come out. But it's one of those realities, and that's part of the commitment. You got to be when you get a horse. The commitment is you're going to watch it die. That's part of your commitment when you get the horse. It's not just all about the fuzzies that you get when you got a horse. And, oh, I'm excited, I got a horse, and oh, she's so pretty, and maybe something's going to happen and she ain't going to be so pretty. It might still be a darn good horse, though. So, be willing to make the commitment for better or for worse. It's, a lot of people don't realize it's a big commitment. Financially, it's a lot of money, and it's a lot of years, and you got to be willing to do it because, some people get lucky and they can have horses for years and years and years and never spend a dime on them. Other people, I'll think of one example is they spent a good year treating the horse to recover it from an injury. And no sooner did it get recovered, and several months later, it received another injury that was serious enough that they actually had to put it down. So all that work and commitment for nothing? Well, sort of. They probably slept good because they knew they did right. That's the thing, is doing right for the horse. So I guess I'd put a wrap on this one, but I just wanted to drill it home to you. Having a horse is a very serious commitment. You got to be willing to financially support that horse and do anything that's necessary to care for it medically. And if that means treating a wound and dressing it and cleaning it for months on end until it heals, or if it means putting it on meds every single day for the rest of its life, well, that's what you're signing up for when you get a horse. And if you've already got one and you're thinking, oh, that sounds terrible, I don't want to have to do that, well, guess what? Too late. You already got the horse. You got to stick to it. You got to do it. This is what you got to look at. You already got the horse. Some people, even when they already have the horse, don't realize what they're getting into. Yeah. If you're wondering what all that noise is in the background, is when it gets really windy outside, this building makes a heck of a lot of noise. All the panels around the top act like reeds, and as the wind whips through, they vibrate, and they make this buzzing and humming. And there's actually several of them right now making noise. Oh well. Gotta live with it. That's a commitment we made, so Uh, Take advantage of that commitment you made. Go spend some time with your horse and enjoy every single minute of it, because you might end up paying pretty high for it. But hey, that's what it is to have a horse. It's a commitment. Have a good day.